And then my kids will be like, well, what if the blanket catches on fire? What if the blanket catches on inside? I'm going, oh my God, my whole house in fire.
What if the blanket does catch on fire?
Raising a well-behaved child in this world requires strict discipline and punishment. Today, we will look...
No, we will not.
Hello and welcome to Childproof, an airwave media podcast. I'm Tori Phantom.
And I'm Gwenna Lathland, and I'm considering letting my children play with knives.
As one does. Also, what?
I'm trying to be less anxious as a parent.
Okay, that's an interesting step to take, but let's set the timer so we could be anxious about that instead.
Yeah, so we've discussed in previous episodes that I, in my family, am the polite way to say it is I'm the risk-averse parent. If you want to do something risky, you need dad's permission, dad's blessing, because mom will... No, absolutely not. Won't even listen to your case. Does it sound risky? Mom's going to say no.
Okay. Yeah.
Mom's going to say no. But anxieties are contagious. At least they can be. Not all of them, not every time, but concerns that I have about my kids falling off granted, 5 feet off the ground fort. Okay, this is what I'm worried about. My 4.5 foot tall 7-year-olds toppling off a 5.5 foot fort and maybe spraining a wrist. This is what keeps me up at night. Among other things.
So the anxiety is so real because you see your kid doing something that's a normal kid thing and your brain is like, hey, guess what? My brain is a horror writer. And here are all the ways that the child can get grievously harmed in ways that don't even make sense for what they're doing.
No.
Thanks, brain.
Thank you.
Love that one.
Like Jack is the outside parent because I will lose my regulation so quickly watching them be normal kids. And that is a problem. It is a problem. Okay. I do not want to give my kids unnecessary anxieties. I want them to have a good relationship with fear. I want them to acknowledge that sometimes anxiety can be useful and sometimes it can be a hindrance. And how do we tell the difference?
Yeah. Yeah, I talk about anxieties with my kids in a lot of different ways. It's really tailored to who the kid is because I have one that is born just like me, which is to say anxious from the first breath. And that can be a struggle, right? Like it can kind of affect your self-esteem. Like, why am I like this? I don't want to be this way, but
I know what I'm worrying about is silly.
But good luck convincing your logic brain that your anxious brain is wrong. Because every time you're like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Your anxiety is like, okay, but what if?
Yeah.
I don't need this. But the way that I've explained it to my kiddo to kind of help her with that self-esteem portion of it is how important having an anxious person in the group is. When we talk about communities, if everyone was like, everything is fine, go with the flow, I'm not worried about it. Wow, would there be some danger? We all need someone to go, have you considered how this could go wrong? And that's the anxious person's job. It's not an easy job to exist in, but it can be helpful.
So I have decided that I'm going to have to swallow it back, and I can begin to approach dismantling my own unnecessary anxieties. I have recognized that no, my risk aversion is going to begin to hinder my children's progress if I don't wrap this up and get this under control. I'm not going to stop being anxious, but I can start doing it scared.
Just like we tell our kids to do. Yeah.
I can start doing it scared. So we have begun 2 different campaigns. Now, I am still incredibly safe and like my sharps are in a drawer that no longer has a baby lock on it, but my kids are 7. Okay. We're fine with them just randomly getting into the knife drawer. And the candle lighters are still up out of reach, but they're 7. And there's no place that is technically out of reach of a 7-year-old.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I could stick it in the attic and they could probably find a way to get up there if they really wanted to.
And they would really want to if you did that. So.
Right. So we're doing two things. We have begun working on knife skills in the kitchen.
Okay.
And we have begun, I have one of those electric taser candle lighters. They're now allowed to light mom's candle when they're in the office. If my candle's not already lit, they can use the little lighter. It's not the flick bick kind. It's, like I said, it's a little taser kind that gives a little electricity jolt, but they can now light the candle. Now the stick is like long, so they're not like having to stick their hand in there. I've made caveats, but now we are working with both fire and sharp objects. And every time I'm asking them, how do we stay safe? What happens if it goes wrong? How do we stay safe? What happens if it goes wrong? If you accidentally cut the tip of your finger off, what should you do? What are the steps?
Yeah.
If the candle falls over, what should you do?
Right. Well, and I think that's part of that is when we teach our kids and we're trying to get them to that point where they are taking calculated risks safely.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually doing two things when we're anxious parents, because not only are we giving them actual valid education that will keep them safe, but we are also proving to ourselves that they are capable of learning these skills, because a lot of the time the danger doesn't come from, just the act of cutting an onion in the kitchen. The danger comes from, oh, you're not paying attention. You're turning your head to see what's going on over here and you haven't stopped cutting, or you're wildly not paying attention to how you're swinging the knife around.
Right.
There are we have to instruct the behavior, not just the
skill.
Yes. Thank you. I wasn't going to find that word.
Everything that goes around to it. It's from the point you walk into the kitchen with the thought, I'm going to chop an onion for dinner, until the point that you're actually rinsing the knife off and, doing whatever it is you do with your knives when they're dirty and need to be cleaned. All of those steps are all things that they're all tiny little baby tasks. And for me, what I've done is I've acknowledged every single baby task. The very first way I decided to address my anxiety over my kids doing risky shit is I just let them stand next to me while I chopped a carrot. That's
great though. Yeah.
It was the tiniest little step, but I was like, hey, get your stool up. I'm going to chop did I need to chop a carrot right then? No, I absolutely did not need to chop a carrot right then, but it's what I had.
Yeah. Well, and you go in with the hand over hand teaching, and because that's my kids we've actually also been working on knife skills, weirdly. We didn't even pre-discuss this behind the scenes. That's just, so when my kid, because she was watching and it's my littlest who loves to get in the kitchen with me. Can I chop this potato? Can I chop this one? And it's like, potatoes are easy to chop through. Like, sure. Yeah. And I watch her little fingers and I'm like, okay, put the knife down. We have to learn a skill. You need to claw those fingers back. We need to claw those fingers back, because if any of your fingers are over where the knife is going, you will also chop those with the potato. We will be avoiding that today, my friend. And it's those little skills that you don't even realize. You're like, this is what I want to teach my kid. And then they start to do the thing you're teaching them. And you're like, I missed a step or four. Okay, let's reel it back in a sec.
I took for granted that knowledge in my head. You don't have that. That's a learned skill. The amount of time I spend in parenting going, that's a learned skill. That's not just inherent. Okay. Because I've lived with having learned that for so long.
Yeah,
it just
you forget what you didn't know.
Yeah, I never learned how to breathe. My body just knows how to breathe. And every once in a while I have to go on manual breathing. And I am sorry for those listeners.
Nothing makes me more anxious than being like, how much do I do a breath?
I'm sorry for those listeners that we just accidentally set into manual breathing because we mentioned it. So sorry. You're fine. You're breathing. You can stop thinking about it. Your body will keep doing it probably.
You're making it worse, Gwenna.
Giving half our audience panic attacks right now. I'm so sorry. But no, the amount of time I spend going, that's a learned skill. You don't know how to do that yet. Okay, rewind. Come back. The other thing that my mom infused me with is she goes, are you scared of them getting hurt? Yes. Are you scared of being injured? Yes. Are those the same thing? No. Accepting risk of getting hurt is normal, arguably something we have to teach our kids to do. You have to accept that this might physically hurt for a moment. You're not aiming to put yourself into that, but we're not training away from learning how to have pain. What we are training away is ways to get injured. There's a difference between bumping your elbow into something and hitting that funny bone and breaking your elbow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I want to make sure that we're mitigating the risky behavior that will lead to injury. And yes, if I see it happening, I'm going to call out, hey, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to fall off that and you're going to scrape your knee.
Yeah.
But then I give them the choice.
That's always like the worst too, is when you're like, no, you're going to get hurt. And they're like, no, I'm not. And you have to decide in that moment if you're going to let them continue. Then you're doing the risk aversion. Are you going to get hurt or injured if I let you continue here? Does this get to be a choice?
Every once in a while, I get to weaponize my pettiness. I'm like, hey, you're going to get hurt. No, I won't. All right, FAFO then. Prove me wrong. Every once in a while, my pettiness will override my risk mitigation.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest parts of parenting with anxiety and parenting through anxiety and helping your kids learn that discernment of that risk assessment is when they do get hurt. And now both of you have to face that fear of it happening again and getting back out there. That was when my kid learned how to ride her bike. Like, one of the things that I do when it comes to those anxieties that I have as a parent is whatever my worst anxiety is, that's the skill we're working on the most, right? Mm-hmm. So when she finally got on the bike, because she learned on a balance bike, which doesn't have pedals or brakes if you're unfamiliar, when we got the pedal situation happening, and, you know, it's a kid bike, so it's the backward pedal brake, we would start bike riding, and randomly I would call out brake check to remind her, you don't stop on this kind of bike by putting your feet down. So randomly, brake check, and she would hit the brake. All was going well. We had a great time. Everything's fine until the one time we were going down a little hill and she got going a little too fast. She got scared. And I saw there was like a car. It went slow motion. I was like, there is no way for me. Please remember the brakes. You know, it's like,
I can't help the situation. You're either going to stop or fall, and I can't do anything about it.
Just please stop before that car. Like, it's a perfect intersection if you don't stop. And so she did manage to stop it. She did fall. She actually somehow ran over herself with her bike. Like she had bike marks on the back of her leg, but she was okay. It wasn't any bad. Like, no bad injury. It was really just scary because she did fall correctly, because we also practiced how to fall with your bike. Somehow she ran herself over. I don't know. I don't understand that one. But she thought it was funny. Not in the moment, of course. But then we weren't home, right? Like, we're out on a bike ride. And we collected ourselves. We hugged. We got through the moment. And I said, well, we got to ride home now. I'm afraid to. Yeah. But we can do it. And then it was the next time we went.
Inside,
I said,
there's my head going, me too, baby, me too.
Yes, me too. I'm terrified. I never want to get on a bike again. That was very frightening. I didn't say that. I said, we got to get home.
That's how the anxieties become contagious, is when we're just like vomiting it on them.
Especially because Jim got hit by a car at the age she was when she fell off the bike. So, like, in our family, we're a little afraid of that. But then the next nice day, I said, hey, why don't we go for a bike ride? And I watched that anxiety wash over her. And I was like, I know, but we could take a shorter bike ride just to prove to yourself that it's not going to happen every time. And I knew I needed to get her back out on that bike, too, for my own anxiety. It would have been so easy for us to just not do it anymore.
Yeah, it's not worth it. It's the 21st century. Honestly, who rides bikes anymore? Like, you begin this process of justifying your anxieties, and then it starts to feel like logic instead of an anxiety.
Yeah.
Because you've justified it so hard. Oh, well, it's fine. We don't actually, that's not, it's like cursive, baby. No one needs to read cursive anymore. And if we stop reading it, we'll stop writing in it. And then, just be an archaic language, kind of like that.
It'll be like Latin. It's lost. Yeah.
Like, enough people will hang on to it. But you start to justify these things.
What I have said to my kids in these moments where they do get hurt and then they want to give up because now it's scary, because now they know, there's a couple things that I'll say. One of them is, okay, but is it worth losing the thing you love over? what is the
Right.
loss if you give it up? What is the loss? And then the other one that I'll say to them is, well, now you know what that feels like when that happens. And that sucks. It does hurt, but it's probably never going to be worse than that. You now understand what it's like. And now that we're past the moment, right? That's not a conversation you have in the moment. That's when they're afraid
Right.
to do it again. It's
Right.
Do you think that it was worth giving up? Again, that circles back to the first point, but
Mm-hmm.
here we are. Now we know what it feels like, and we know it sucks, but it doesn't suck so bad we should never do it again.
Right. We've encountered maybe not a worst case scenario because, things could be way worse, but we've encountered probably the most common bad thing that's going to happen. You're going to fall off your bike. You might scrape off some layers of skin. You might get some bumps, bruises, welts, and lumps. But honestly, that's going to be the worst of your experience. And does the risk, because that didn't happen every time. How many times did we ride before you fell off like that?
Literally, I start asking those questions too. And I'm like, okay, let's look statistically here.
Like, I'm a data nerd and I am going to train my children.
Right.
I'm going to teach
make
them
a list,
how to
kids. I
combat
love
their
making
own anxieties
lists.
with over-education.
That's literally my entire method. Yes.
Well, and the other thing that I recognize, I've said this before, but it's one of those things of, here, take my advice. I'm not using it. I need my children to learn resilience, especially looking around at everything. No, it's not always going to be easy. I cannot cakewalk your life. I have no silver spoons. I have no trust funds for you, baby.
Yeah.
There's going to be encounters where it's hard and it feels impossible and there are no ready solutions and everything hurts, maybe physically, maybe emotionally. And we are tiptoeing that line to just dump in another experience in the trauma column. We're getting so close to it, but we have to learn resilience. And that is another one of those things that is a learned skill. Dealing with bad stuff, dealing with both physical and emotional pain is a part of being a human. And honestly, good things can come out of it. I don't want to silver lining everyone's trauma, but there are good things that can come out of it. I'm freaking funny because my dad sucked.
I'm hilarious. And also a good parent. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like good things can happen when we have the opportunity to learn from the bad things that happen to us. It's unfair, but
yeah. And that resiliency isn't just built through going through trying times. It's not just bad things happening to you and you just kept living another day. That's not really what's building our resilience. What's building our resilience is the understanding that we're not alone through it, that we are okay. It is that reflection of how we made it through the hard time. It is knowing that we have support when we're going through hard times. And then we feel like we are capable of handling hard things. It's not just persisting.
Right. Well, and that's what a lot of us got is we had to persist through it and then look back and go, okay, how do I avoid all of that again? Like, what steps do I take to not have to live through that again?
Yeah.
But now what we're able to do is we've talked many, many times about failing safely. I can let my children take risks, including times where they might get hurt physically or emotionally, including times where there is risk of injury. Even with safe, I have cut off the tips of my own fingers more than once.
Yeah.
I know how to use a knife.
That's the thing in the kitchen where I'm like, okay, everything else, you guys could be a part of this. I want to teach you. But when I am frying things in hot oil, get out of the kitchen. I accidentally splashed hot oil on my hand just a couple years ago. I almost had to go to emergency room. My whole hand was blistered. Nope, this is not one you guys even get to be. There needs to be a 5-foot radius around this stove because I could do it safely and I've still had accidents.
There are a bunch of steps we have to take before you're at deep frying. Okay, let's can you not burn yourself on the air fryer? That's step one.
Yeah.
We'll figure out what step two is here in just a sec. No, but we can teach resiliency by walking them through these healthy coping skills, because that's part of where, at least for me, I cannot speak broadly. That is part of where my trauma really sort of seeded itself is that in the aftermath of it, I didn't have any coping skills on board. I had to learn those after the fact while I was carrying around all this brokenness and this pain and this fear and all of these new anxieties that came out of the various points of both little t and big T trauma that I've lived through. But what I can do is we're not wandering into trauma. I can guarantee you my children will have trauma. Hopefully not from me.
Yeah.
But little t and big T trauma are just a part of the human experience. And that sucks. And they're...
Yeah. Well, and as someone diagnosed with trauma disorder and who has done a whole lot of reading on all of that, trauma itself is not the thing that causes the trauma disorders, right? Trauma is not a trauma disorder. Everyone experiences some level of trauma. The trauma disorder develops from many different causes.
Correct. So like your kid having a bad experience does not guarantee that your kid is going to carry around a trauma disorder. Yeah. The worst thing you've experienced is in fact the worst thing you've experienced.
Yeah. No, that's
it doesn't matter that other people have experienced way worse. The worst thing, if the worst thing you've experienced was your mom cut your bangs to these little micro things the day before the picture, and that's your trauma. Yeah, baby, that's your trauma.
That's fine.
That was horrifying.
Right. This isn't to make it a trauma Olympics is it's reductive to everyone involved. It's not fair.
Yes.
It's comparing apples and oranges. Yes, they're both fruit. Anything beyond that when you're comparing that is really kind of pointless, because if you're even getting down to flavor and stuff, that's still subjective. So
right. But all that said and done, we had to do our little disclaimer of we respect everyone's trauma from wherever
if you are
carrying
a whole boatload of trauma, we're also going to do our moment of you deserve help and you should seek help if it is accessible to you.
Therapy is not weakness. Therapy is not failing.
Therapy is for everyone.
One of the strongest and best investments you can make in your future. And if you already have kids while you're living with this, it's one of the best and strongest things you can do for their future too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's life-changing.
It is.
I can anecdotally say.
Right. So all of that is to say, we don't want our kids to avoid all pain. We want to help them learn how to deal with the pain. I want them to know, if you tip over that candle, what do you do? If it doesn't extinguish itself, what do you do? And what happens if it catches the rug on fire? What do you do? And yes, I'm going through worst case scenarios. I'm explaining step by step all of the things that I worry about in the dark of night.
And with discernment, because when you realize like you have to kind of like slowly go into all that, because that can create its own anxiety. If you're just like, here's all the worst things that could ever happen, what would you do? And then your kid is like,
right. Luckily, my kids are my kids. And so it's just all questions all the time. We don't stop talking.
Same.
But luckily I ignored my own anxiety. I did the thing that I tell everybody never to do. Don't quash it down, feel through it, work through it. But when it's time to help my kids walk through these sort of scary things, I start cramming.
But
I start cramming a little bit. I'll let them out later, but I cram.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You cram it in your pocket. You don't cram it into the garbage. You're not saying, I'm never going to address this. You're saying, I'm going to put this in my pocket for me to deal with on my own, not with my kids.
But my kids will be like, oh, what if the carpet catches on fire? Yeah, what if the carpet catches on fire? Well, we could throw the blanket on it. Right, because what does fire need? It needs fuel, it needs air, and it needs ignition. Well, the candle was the ignition. We've got air. Yep, air's there. So the carpet must be the fuel. And then my kids will be like, well, what if the blanket catches on fire? What if the blanket catches on inside? I'm going, oh my God, my whole house in fire.
What if the blanket does catch on fire?
My kids are making that awkward laugh. Well, we get a fire extinguisher. Oh, you know where the fire extinguisher is? Huh. When did I tell you that?
Yeah. That's my kids on there where ours
okay,
is.
so you do have you have been listening. Cool.
My kids have gotten used to as if there's ever been anything different. My kids
have been raised with.
Yeah, my kids have been raised with the fact that I will just drop random life skills, and I literally say it like that. Hey, I've noticed this is time for a life skill, because like one of my kids, when they started using the oven, right? Oh, you're using the oven. Hey, what do you do if there's a fire in the oven? And they really thought about it. And I'm like, I don't feel like I should open it, because I learned in science that if you add air, that's fuel. Yes, exactly. Do not open the oven. But what should you do? And they're, because it's like using the oven at all is new. Turn off the heat. Just turn it off. That's if it's not a huge fire, do that first. That's where we're at in this level of education. If you see a fire in the oven, turn it off. Don't open the door. And it's those little things.
And then go get an adult. And honestly, for some, that's the end of the education right now. Then go get an adult. Can, in fact, be the end of the lesson. I have been trying very hard to continue the compartmentalization. So when we started working on knife skills, the very first thing we got little kitty knives that don't have any edge whatsoever. And then all they would do was basically, this is so strange, but they were about 5 when we started this, and they got to cut lines out of applesauce. I would just squeeze some of the applesauce from their pack, and then they would just sort of scoot
like
it around.
Great fine motor skill activity, honestly.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And basically what I was using that was, I had my own massive anxiety around my kids and knives, my kids in the kitchen, my kids participating in this risky behavior that I in no way find risky for myself. So I knew there was a disconnect there.
Yeah.
Because I was perfectly willing to participate in all of these things. But I was unwilling to let my kids join me in a perfectly normal and reasonable life skill. All right, this is a me issue. Okay, I'm being irrational about this.
I'm the problem.
I'm the problem here. So what I needed to do was figure out a way to let me assess, because when we're talking about life skills, yes, I have to teach you, but I also have to make sure you're ready to learn. I have to make sure that, because this isn't necessarily an age appropriate thing. There are Montessori kids making themselves whole omelets at the age of 2 because they were given an environment where that sort of risky behavior was very cautiously and carefully administered, to the point that a 2-year-old can make an omelet. I'm 41 and can't make an omelet. It ends up a scramble every time.
I don't need eggs, and I apparently make the best omelet in the house. Make it make sense. I don't know how I'm doing that.
So the very first thing I did is I got one of those kitty knives, literally from the toy section, that just looked more like a knife than anything else, and let them mess with applesauce, let them mess with already softened on the counter butter, like stuff that I was going to put into the thing, but I would just have to like do the extra steps of like scraping it off the board because it's in the world's thinnest layer.
Do you know what I did for me with the knife skills? I would take things like, say, the microwavable pancakes, or, if you want to put the energy into making pancakes, I suppose. Hey, you can literally cut this with the edge of your fork, but I'm handing them the butter knife. And we're just learning how the knife skills work, like just table etiquette even, of how to use a knife and a fork to cut through things. But by doing so, they're understanding at least the mechanics of using a knife. Yeah.
Well, and then we went up to kitchen scissors. So that was I love that you brought up pancakes, because after I determined, okay, we're to a point where our focus, our motor skill, and our willingness, our excitement to participate in this activity are all aligned, and I'm pretty sure we can move up. Then we go to kitchen scissors, and I handed them some DeWaffle Baker's pancakes. I was like, hey, take these and cut them into...
Is that how you say that?
DeWaffle Baker.
That's the kind I buy, and I've never known how to say the word. Thank you.
I really like DeWaffle Baker.
DeWaffle Baker. DeWaffle Baker. That's fun to say. Okay, continue.
So, but like they would cut them into strips, and then, because I am a nerd, I started giving them language, which kept them really excited. I was like, you just julienned your pancakes. You just diced your pancakes. You just chopped your pancakes. And then we got to have conversations. So now I am weaponizing my own special interest, my own lexicography. That's not right. Lexicographical. Okay.
Lexicrat. We're having a good time with words today.
I know. So what I've done is I have weaponized my own love of words, and I'm giving them then, and they're giving me that energy back because they're at an age where everything is new and exciting, and the chance to learn is their entire motivating process here. That's everything that they want. And so I'm using things that I love, and I'm giving that to them, and they are in turn giving me back the positive response. So I am more relaxed because they're into it. They want to understand. They want to not just be like mom, which that helps. It strokes your ego a little bit when your kid's like, I want to be like you. You're like, well, I think you can do better, but okay.
There, that part right there. Mm-hmm.
I think you can do a little better than what mom ended up, but yeah, sure. We'll use that as a starting point.
And I could be your inspiration.
You're you. I'm already me. And this, listen, you don't need to go through what I did to get me to here.
Yeah. You could skip a few chapters, actually.
Again, I'm really funny for reasons. All right. Just Julie and the pancake, baby.
I think that's part of dealing with anxiety as a parent, though, is picking your battles with yourself, right? Yeah. Because when you have so many of these different anxieties, which some of them are not as, they're not as debilitating to your ability to go through, oh, my kid is doing this thing that could cause, I recognize that there is a risk there, but I'm not over the top about it, right? And so it's recognizing which thing do I want to work on when it comes to my anxiety right now? Like my kids, when they're carrying around scissors, they are so good about policing each other with how to properly carry scissors. And that is because I have had this weird, huge anxiety with kids running around with scissors. I don't know why, but they are so good about that, right? And then there's other things where I'm like, should I probably deal with my arachnophobia? Yeah, my kids are like learning this fear of spiders. However, I'm not going to, okay? They're too many legs. The proportion of legs to body, it's any insect, arachnid, anything. No. Why do you have that many legs? Why are they that long? If your body is so small, it freaks me out, man. And then they go so fast. No, I'm not dealing with it. My kids can inherit that anxiety, but one of them wants pet caterpillars. So clearly they're not all easy to share, right? Yeah.
Well, and anytime you are looking at a parental anxiety, especially a parental anxiety that is maybe verging on irrational or maybe stemming from your own place where the trauma sits, those are the
like the
worst.
Projection we were talking about in a previous episode.
Right. Navigating parenting with and through anxiety is a whole lot of boundary setting. You navigate risks through boundaries. And sometimes it is fine, acceptable, and even reasonable to go, mommy is scared of spiders. Mommy cannot help you with this. This is a boundary for mommy. If you're going to have an interest in spiders, if this is your new special interest, it is my job to find you someone to share that special interest with spiders because it can't be me. I am not it. I'm not your girl.
Yeah.
And
keep
that away from me.
Like the kids all know that if I see a spider, it is going to be funny for anyone who sees me see a spider. That's just how it is. However, I will go and get the spider for my kids if they are freaked out about one being in their space. Yes. Will I cry? Yes, but I'll still do it.
But also, will I watch spider videos with you? No, I will not do that.
Absolutely.
I'm drawing that boundary. I will find places. I will find ways. You know what? There's a girl at the library who loves spiders. Let's go to the library and you can go talk to that librarian about that. Okay?
Yeah. Yes.
That I can do. I can do. So there are times where it is perfectly reasonable if you are walking around with 4 fingers on your left hand because you cut one off, you maybe don't have to teach your specific kids knife skills. If that is still something that you're carrying around as a deep, grievous soul wound, all right, maybe you can they offer cooking classes at like the Y and a lot of community centers. Maybe that's the step you need to take for that specific thing. You are allowed to set boundaries that your anxieties require. You have to be careful about them. You have to make sure that we're not wandering into that justification thing.
Yeah.
But you're allowed to set a boundary of, I can't do this. It's now my job to figure out how to show you that, but I am not going to be the teacher in this one.
Well, I think it also circles right back to what you were saying with, well, it's not really an age appropriate thing. It's a, are you ready thing. Sometimes we have to ask, am I ready to deal with this? It's the same thing because maybe your kid could learn that skill at that age, but is it going to cause harm in the long run if you're like, let me teach you this thing later? Because right now I'm not ready to deal with this in myself, but now we're goal setting. I want to be able to deal with this. How do I get to a point where I'm able to deal with this so I can get to the point where I can teach my kid this skill? There's so many moving parts. It makes me anxious. But I do think part of the difficulty in both navigating your own anxiety as a parent and then also navigating the anxieties that pop up for your kids is, one, sometimes your kids end up with irrational anxieties that don't make sense to you, and you still have to have it. You don't have to understand to be respectful of it, right? Like one of my kids, completely terrified of a common housefly, nothing else. She's happy as could be with everything else. Common houseflies, no. And that's fine. But then there's other things that your kids have an anxiety about, and you're like, I have to push you to do it anyway. I have to push you to do it scared. And that's hard because you want to protect your babies, but it's not always protecting them to not, push them in the direction of facing their fear and their anxiety.
So my oldest daughter, she had a speech impediment. And this is one of those stories that I share with absolutely zero shame. I didn't know she wasn't supposed to be talking like that. I did not know that she had a speech impediment. I didn't recognize that wasn't developmentally appropriate. I didn't realize how poor her speech was. She was in first grade and barely intelligible because I had mom ears. I understood her just fine.
Literally,
what do you mean the rest of you people can't understand what she's saying?
One of my kids' speech therapists is the one who told me my other kid needed speech therapy. I didn't notice it. I was used to just having a kid with a speech delay. So when the youngest also had one, I didn't notice because I could understand. And I said, well, I understand everything she says. And does anyone else? She said it with such kindness. And I was like, oh. No, I don't think anyone else.
No, my eldest teacher came to me and she goes, have you considered speech therapy? We can do it at the school and it doesn't mean that anything's wrong. It's just, I think there's some muscle issues and maybe a little bit of hearing. We can do a bunch of things and the school can help you. She was so gentle when she was like, hey, your baby isn't actually talking the way she should be. But so we got her into speech therapy. We figured out it was a muscle issue. It really wasn't. I failed to teach her or anything. Her ears were fine. She had an underdeveloped jaw muscle. And that was just a thing. So we worked through that. She got through it. She graduated speech therapy after a few years because, again, it's not that she couldn't hear. It's not that she couldn't pronounce. It's that the muscles in her tongue didn't let her tongue roll up the way it was supposed to make the sounds.
Sometimes they just have articulation issues with there's no defined cause. Reason. Right. We love speech therapists here and everyone else who helps out kids. Yeah.
I know.
We love the people on our teams.
She graduated speech therapy and she was like, I want to do a talent show. Okay. What do you want to do? I want to tell jokes. Okay. Do you have jokes? And she had jokes. She'd written several. They were third grade funny. I was like, all right, cool. What do you need from me? What's the hang up here? She goes, I want to practice. Okay. I'm here. No, for other people. What? So I found a little speech masters group. I was like, hey, my kiddo wants to do a stand up. Can you listen to her? Because she is scared of speaking in public because for the past 2 years, she was made wildly aware that she spoke differently and she's not fully confident that she's not speaking unintelligibly. I don't want to say different because everybody speaks differently, but she was really concerned that she was still having those issues where people couldn't understand her. So she needed that little boost before she would go to the other. So they're like, yeah, absolutely. And then they gave her a little grade like they do in this little speech masters club. And obviously they were very generous.
Yeah.
But obviously she was in 3rd grade. All right.
Yeah.
Wasn't that funny? She listened to the show. She knows.
Yeah.
But that was one of the ways that I had to find a way to, I was perfectly willing. It had nothing to do with my anxiety. Lord knows I don't have a problem talking in front of people. Jesus.
I do. And it's surprising, I know. But my kid recently had asked me, how do you deal with the stage fright? Because they know I've always been a performer. How do you deal with it, though? I said, you just do it scared and understand that you will be shaking like a leaf for the first 30 seconds at least. I'm like, that is the point that I got to really over the last few years and that I was able to share with my kid is this awesome like nugget is like, it doesn't matter if your voice is shaking. You're still speaking. And when you could feel that, like when you could feel confident in that, like I know when I talk to people, even just like on a meeting, my voice shakes until I start to relax a little. And that's okay because it is better. It is in the same way when I tell my kids, what are you giving up if you don't do this? I have to tell myself, what am I giving up if I choose to not speak because my voice is shaking?
When my daughter went up to give that speech, we were standing outside the hallway and she was like, Mom, I'm going to cry. I was like, okay, let a couple tears out. She goes, no. You let a couple tears out, then you catch them and you look at them and you promise all the rest of your friends can come visit later. You can cry later. So let a couple out and then promise yourself you can cry later.
Immediately stealing that. Immediately stealing that. That's brilliant.
Just scoop those tears up and make them a promise that the rest of their friends can come later. But they may decide they don't want to come out after you've done such a good job. And sure enough, she did not feel the need to cry after. She was so proud of herself. The applause got to her. Like, it was good. It was good. And she did do the talent show and everyone thought she was funny and she had such a little confidence boost. Has she ever done stand-up ever again? No. But
it's like, it's probably such a fun memory. Yeah. And it's picking which thing to push your kid to pursue. I think that could be a challenging one. Like my kid wanted to do the talent show, wanted to sing. She's got a beautiful voice. And she went through, filled out the form, and then had to go audition for it. And she said, I can't do it. And I said, that's okay. Maybe next year. Yeah. But then, when she took a softball to the knee and never wanted to play softball again, I said, you love this too much. It's okay if you want to take a day off of batting because that fast pitch came in fast and I would be okay with you not doing that again. I have the fear, but I don't need to share that with you because this is a sport people play. And now you know what it feels like. Yeah. And it's probably not going to be worse than taking one directly to the kneecap and, getting back out there for the first time that she bat again. I saw shaking like a leaf, but she still did it. And I celebrated. I said, I was so proud. I said, because you did it scared and maybe you weren't ready to swing yet, but you've now proved to yourself that you're not going to take a softball to the knee every single time.
I have a question for you because I see the timer is about to run out. Did you take a moment to celebrate yourself for letting your kid do it while you were scared?
Can that timer go off now? Where is it?
Did you take a sec to celebrate yourself for letting your kid do it while you were scared? Yeah. But I think that's something that I don't do it either. I have not taken a moment to go, you know what? My kid chopped an entire boiled potato because I still can't let them do the raw because it's hard. And what if it's, we got to boiled potato, okay?
We all need to take more time to celebrate ourselves. We really do. We deserve the credit. I don't have a celebration button. I just have riot buttons. So.
Oh, God. There's a riot for.
Okay. They're gonna riot! Yeah.
Because we didn't let our anxiety rule our parenting.
Yeah.
If you'd like the rest of the context for that button, check out Founded, available everywhere you find your favorite podcasts.
And thank you so much for listening to Childproof, a part of the Airwave Media Network of podcasts.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, push buttons, click dots, ring bells. All of that helps keep the podcast going.
And Gwenna's new book, Thinky Thoughts, hits shelves in April, and the link to get your copy is in the show notes, or you can find it everywhere you find your favorite books, ebooks, and audiobooks.
Check out all the rest of our sibling podcasts on the Airwave Media Network. It's not just Tori and I talking about books, kids, and hamsters. There are also other folks talking about books, kids, and hamsters, and lots of other things.
And we do want to hear from you. Email us at childproofmail@gmail.com with suggestions, questions, and your best and brightest holiday memories or funniest wintertime stories for our next email roundup.
And remember, sometimes our kids are assholes.
And sometimes it's us.
It is always anxiety.
Just a horror writer living in my brain.
Just
working overtime for free.
Why do I have an image of my kid looking like that? Just living in my head.